All right, it is 10 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to Power of Moments. My name is Danielle Daly. I'm the Professional Development Coordinator here with the Illinois Crisis Prevention Network. I'm just going to go over a few housekeeping things, and then I will pass you on off to Trina for her presentation. We will run until 11 a.m. today. Everyone is muted. Your cameras are disabled. Please use that chat box feature throughout the presentation. I know that Trina may be asking for your experiences, or if you have any questions, please make sure that that's set to everyone and not just hosts and panelists so that everyone can see your experiences or your questions as we go along here. Please visit our website, icpn.org. You can view our upcoming trainings. There are two that are currently posted on there. One being another part of the positive psychology series that will be this coming Monday, December 4th. It's going with the flow. We also have one on there for December 20th, and that's our Stress Express using ABA to address staff burnout. In the coming weeks, there will be a couple more posted on there that are a part of our positive psychology series. So please be sure to check that out. Join our mailing list so that you can be the first to know and sign up for those upcoming webinars. Continuing education certificates, please give me about 14 days to get those out to everyone. I will apologize if you are a part of our positive psychology overview that occurred 2 weeks ago. I'm still working on getting those out to everyone. I'm hoping to have them done by today, if not by the end of the week. But please give me some time to get those out, especially for today. If you do not receive yours within that 14 days, please do reach out to me. I will put my email address into the chat box, but it is the first initial of my first name. So D, and then my last name, Daly at hope.us. Again, I will put that in the chat box. Please feel free to reach out to me if you do not receive your certificate, or if you have any other questions, comments, or concerns. I think that is all I have. Trina, if you want to go ahead and get started.
All right, am I sharing my screen that says the power of moments?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Trina Sealing, and I work at Trinity Services. I've been here quite a while. I'm the Director of Staff Development, and I'm super pleased to be talking about the power of moments. It has to be in the top 5 in terms of books that I've read, and I gift it to everybody who's willing to read it. It's written by Chip and Dan Heath. Sometimes I call them Chip and Dip. I don't usually do a presentation on one book. Typically, I'll look at relevant resources and pull it together and synthesize and talk about a topic. But this is page after page after page, good stuff. And one of the reasons that I appreciate it is it meshes perfectly with Seligman's positive psychology and PERMA in terms of positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. Keep that in the back of your mind, because as we go through this, you'll be able to see how that ties in beautifully. And the other one is they give you content and then they give you applications. And they give you content and they give you applications. Everybody, all of us are incredibly busy, and finding time to read is sometimes a luxury. So, these books you can take chapter by chapter and walk away feeling like it's actionable right then. So came out in 2017, so it's not necessarily new, but definitely worthwhile. Okay. So let's start with Mickey. They give a pretty neat example. They start their book with what they call the Disney paradox. And this is kind of the way they explain it. Probably half of us, there's 282, probably half of us have been to Disney. If you've been more than twice, God bless you. So let's say that you're at Disney and I say to you, I'm really curious about your experience. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to text you throughout the day, and I'm going to ask you in that moment to rate your experience. And you're going to rate it from 1 to 10, with 1 being miserable and 10 being amazing. So let's look at that. So I text you at 9 and I say, hey, how's the Disney experience going? And you say, good, I'm finishing breakfast. Breakfast was good. The kids have a lot of energy. We're getting ready to go over to the tram to ride into the park. I'd say we're at a 6. Then an hour later, I say, hey, what do you think? And you say, oh, we're on, and it's a small world. And I got to be honest with you, I don't really understand why it's so exciting, but the kids like it. And so I would say it's probably a 5. At 11, I get in touch with you and you say, holy cow, we just rode Space Mountain. It was amazing. We're going to get in line again. So much fun. The kids could not be more excited. So I'll give it a 10. Then comes lunch. The first thing you say about lunch is, wow, that was expensive, but the food is good. And so you say, all right, kids had something to eat. They had decent alternatives. Let's give it a 6. 1 o'clock, you're in the safari line. You've been in the line for 45 minutes. One of the kids have to go to the bathroom. One of them's thirsty. Not a positive experience. You say, you know what? This is a 3. Come 2 o'clock, I text you again and you say, what a day. We're buying mouse ears. Really a lot of fun. I'm going to give that a 9. So this is where it gets interesting. So suppose we fast forward 30 days, 45 days, and I get back in touch with you and I say, I want to talk about your Disney experience. Looking back at that, what would you rate that experience? And if you look at the slide before, it's going to average 6.5, 6 to 7. So that's what we typically expect to get right. Maybe a 6, maybe a 7. But here's what happens. The person says, oh my gosh, it's a 9. We can't wait to go back. Just really, really, it was worth all the time and the money. It was really a positive experience. Well, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, does it? Well, it turns out that when we are recalling experiences, we often don't remember this. And we don't remember this. And this was my experience, and we don't remember this. In fact, we ignore most of the experience. And instead, we have a tendency to remember the standout moments. Chip and Dan call this duration neglect, and there's research behind this, that when we are recalling experiences, it's not a summation of the entire experience. We typically recall 2 types of moments disproportionately. And the first one is the peaks, right? The best moments of the experience. And oddly enough, the second is the end. We forget about hot and sweaty, right? So this is well researched, and psychologists call it the peak end rule. If you think about this, you probably have experiences that would fall into this phenomenon. I'll give you an example. My oldest graduated with her master's, and we were incredibly proud, and she was incredibly proud, and she graduated from Rush. And so the graduation was at the UIC Pavilion, which is gigantic. And you think, well, there's no way it can be full because it's so big. And you get there, and the line just to get into the auditorium is around the block. So we wait to get in the auditorium, and then we have to walk a short mile and find seats, and we're not close to the stage. And we're just waiting for Krista, right? We're waiting for her degree to come up and for Krista to come up, and we're all sitting there. And now one of the kids says, I'm going to go get something to eat, right? So when all is said and done, we leave and we go have dinner. Well, this would be an example of a peak end rule. When I look back at the day that Krista graduated, I get warm fuzzies. I remember when she first put her cap and gown on. I remember when they called her name and she walked across the stage and we all yelled, right? And then I remember the beautiful dinner that we had at the end. So probably doesn't take you a whole long time to think about other situations that would fall into this. So let me give you another example. Have you heard of the Magic Castle? So this is the Magic Castle Hotel. It's pretty modest. It's in LA, and it used to be an apartment building. It kind of looks like it used to be an apartment building in the 50s. And here's why this hotel is significant. Its customer satisfaction ratings are as high as the Los Angeles Ritz-Carlton. And why would that happen? It's modest. The pool, it's got 6 chairs, and a small pool. How would that possibly work? Well, it's not because it's really cheap. It runs about the same cost of a Marriott in Los Angeles. So not, particularly a good deal. But here's what we know. So breakfast is always free, and it's not kind of this little continental breakfast. It is a huge spread, food for adults, food for children. It's served for a lengthy period of time. They have a magician that's there in the morning working with your kids. They have a 24-hour snack menu that has anything you could possibly ask for, candy, chip, soda. They have a huge selection of board games and DVDs and events for the kids in the morning. And here's the cool part. They have a popsicle hotline. So right next to the pool, there's a red phone, and anybody, adult or a child, can pick up the phone and tell them what type of popsicle they want. And shortly after, a person wearing a suit and white gloves, carrying a silver tray, delivers the popsicle. And so there it is, right? There's the catch. They have figured out that we can have underwhelming rooms. We don't have to be the cheapest in town, but we're going to offer magical, unforgettable moments or peak moments. So Dan and Chip use this as an example of peak moments. You can use the popsicle hotline for as long as you want. And what happens is people go back home and they say we went to Disney and we went to the Walk of Fame and all of those things, but we stayed at the coolest hotel. And again, peak moments and rule. So what they have figured out there is that peak moments will lead to high customer service. What we do at most hotels, right, is you get an email that says, how was your stay? You might get a call, how was your stay? But what they do is they don't call you afterwards because they expect that your stay was phenomenal. And instead, they put all of their time and energy into that, not trying to correct bad experiences. So for our purposes, peak moments, we'll talk about that for the rest of the session. And for our purposes, we'll look at them as being memorable or meaningful, sparks positive emotions. So that's that positive psychology, PERMA. And they either shape our lives or they stand out in our memory. So my charge to you is let's start thinking in moments. What if we could use this to create memories for the people that we support, right? What if this was our approach? What if teachers could intentionally create lessons that were remembered by students at 10 and 15 years later? What if we intentionally worked with our employees for the purposes of creating peak moments? There is a catch, right? And that's that none of us have in our job description a line that says actively seeks to create peak moments. By definition, a lot of times we're identifying concerns, issues, we're trying to correct those, and we're trying to fix problems. And we approach happiness from that angle, and that's fixing problems. So hopefully after the session, there will be a BOLO, so there'll be on the lookout, right, for opportunities for you to create powerful moments, to spot occasions that are worth investing in. I gave some handouts. Chip and Dan are very, very generous with their content. So everything that I sent you is available on their website. And I believe there is also a full chapter 1 that you can print from the website. They're frequently in Chicago. Often they don't charge. And there is a handout called EPIC, right? The 4 common elements of peak moments: elevation, pride, insight, and connection. And so there's a handout that very just kind of clearly describes that. We know that often exciting moments, peak moments, are serendipitous. We're in the right place at the right time, right? Or a stroke of luck. But we're going to look at elevation, pride, insight, and connection from the angle of what can I do? What can you do to elevate, create moments of pride, moments of insight, and moments of connection? So elevation, what do we mean by elevate? Elevate, we mean we're going to rise above everyday experiences. They're going to make you feel engaged, make you feel joyful. Sometimes elevated experiences motivate us. And our job is to identify the peaks and to make them peakier, right, through elevation. The other one is, so elevation, you can do it 3 ways. You can boost sensory appeal, you can raise the stakes, or you can break the script. So under the E in EPIC, there are 3 ways to create intentional elevated experiences. The second one is raise the, so the first one is boost sensory appeal: sight, sound, touch, smell. This is why concerts have all of the special effects, right? This is why movies have the special effects. The second one is raise the stakes. And what we mean here is maybe some productive pressure, some competition. And the third is break the script. And what they mean by script is what is the expected experience, right? So you go into a restaurant, you can kind of predict what's going to happen. You're going to stand there, you're going to tell them that you have reservations, they're going to ask you to have a seat, right? They're going to take you to your seat. So you have a script. And for most situations, we have kind of a script in our head, whether we recognize it or not. So let's look at, so I'm going to give you examples from my personal life, examples from my professional life that slip into kind of their EPIC formula. And I'll ask periodically if anybody has an example or something that they want to share. The idea is this is not isn't something that you have to do. This is just an example. So this right here, these are 2 horses that are part of our therapeutic horseback riding program. And for years, it kind of limped along. Horse enthusiasts would donate money. We were, happy. We had a small number of horses, and we were proud to have it, but it was mildly successful. We brought in a gal who really has approached it entirely different. And when I talked about it, she hasn't read the book. This is just her approach, right, to strides. So she started doing birthday parties. That's common. When my kids were small, Carly had a birthday party at a horse barn, petting zoo, those kinds of things. But one of the things they do is they are able to, they get on the horses and walk around, but they're also able to paint the horses. She's assured me that it's more like a chalk paint, so they're not hurt. But it's sensory, right? So it's colorful, it's on their hands, they're touching the horse, there's a product that they can look at. It's definitely boosting sensory appeal. People take out their cameras to take pictures of the horses and of their kids while they're doing this. It's interesting. When I was reading the book, I was also doing some other research on this. And there's actually a company in the UK called Sensory Trust. And their whole purpose is to build boosted sensory experiences for businesses. So you hire them and they create an experience for you and your employees, your clientele, whatever it is. And they are highly skilled at boosting the sensory appeal. And that's their sole purpose. And they're successful running on that business model. Another way to boost sensory appeal is high sensory, something that maybe you would have never thought you would have participated in, something that you never knew was an option, something that you knew about, but frankly just thought it was out of reach. Now, this is iFly, and it's an experience. It is a kind of a pseudo skydiving experience. And I'm using this because we had an auction, and the package was 6 iFly tickets. And the person bid on it and walked away with it. And then she got in touch with us and said, I would like to use the package to take some people that you support to the iFly experience. And that was off the hook, right? So we thought about it. And then Thane, he's our CEO, Thane said, you know what, if you're willing to use your 6 tickets for that purpose, we'll double that. And we'll pay for 6 additional people and a couple of staff to do this. Clearly not something that was on anybody's radar as being, something that they would likely participate in. They made it a day. I don't know if you've ever done this. It's a little bit more difficult than it looks. And nobody looks like this lady smiling. It's not pretty. But yeah, so 12 people supported and staff, and this lady and Thane did this. Then they went out for lunch. There was all kinds of pictures. We framed pictures for people, and clearly not something that anybody would have expected. The other thing that this did is when staff realized that we were willing to support something like this, they started to freely come up with other crazy ideas that were doable. Often staff have ideas, but they'll squash them because they just don't think they're doable. And this kind of opened the doors for some of that. I think everything counts when you're looking at boosting sensory appeal. This is an example. I was in one of our programs up north, and I was there for a meeting, but I was walking down the hall, and I noticed that one of the rooms, the lights were dim, and there was candlelight. They were the battery operated candles, and they were different heights, and they were on tables, and they were on the floor. And I peek in the window, there's music, there is aromatherapy going on. And I say to staff, what's this about? And she said, oh, Mary comes in twice a week, volunteers, and she does yoga with folks that are interested. And I was really taken aback because I guess I thought if Mary came in and did yoga, she'd lay down some mats and put on some music, and that would be the experience. But this gal got it. And what I appreciated was her assumption was that the people would appreciate and benefit from all of those extras, instead of making the assumption that, well, they really won't get it. And so what happens is there's not enough mats. There's a waiting list for people to participate in Mary's yoga sessions. I don't know if you're familiar with Oculus. They are, they used to be outrageous. It's the virtual reality type thing. They're not outrageous anymore. You can get them for a couple $100. And what one of the programs here, what they've done is they've purchased a number of them. And there's a whole catalog of experiences. You can see concerts, like you could see the Beatles, right? Not an option. You could see the Beatles. That would be crazy. You can ride roller coasters. You can go to the circus. You can scuba dive. And these can be checked out, or you can use them at the program. So when somebody says, what I would like to do, I'd like to scuba dive, you don't have to identify the 7 reasons why that person can't scuba dive, aside from the fact that we're in Chicago, right? Instead, you can say, let me see what's available on Oculus. And it turns out, there's 10, 15 plus different options for scuba diving. So literally, you can make dreams come true for 200 clams, right? Very, very cool. So before I go to raise the stakes, which we've talked about boosting sensory appeal and looking at raise the stakes, I'm just curious if anybody has anything they want to share that would fit into the boosting sensory appeal category for making memories.
So we did have a couple people comment. Candace talked about how she actually dries apples in her house with a small dryer that she bought from the store, and she uses cinnamon so that her house smells beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Christine talked about going zip lining when you were talking about that iFly experience and how it was exhilarating and scary at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Mary said adding background music.
Mm-hmm. What's really cool when I'm standing in front of 35 new staff and I'm doing, orientation, and you've got to cover all of the basics. One of the things I say to them is, if somebody asked me what your job was, I would say your job is to maximize the quality of life of the people that you support. I'd cut right past everything else, and I would say the question that you want to ask yourself in 2 months, 6 months, a year is, how is this person's quality of life better because I have come into it? And you can just see them get super excited. And then I talk about these things. We're not for profit. And so I always kind of joke saying, we're not Little Sisters of the Poor, and we don't have $1 million donors. But if you can come up with the idea, we will work very, very hard to figure it out. And when I give them these examples, I think it frees them to talk about other examples. So yeah, I appreciate that very much. We do this for ourselves. This is why if you burn candles, this is why you burn candles. Like you said, music, right? We talk about self-care. A lot of times self-care is about boosting a sensory experience. So let's move on to raising the stakes. This is where we talked about some friendly competition. This is, when we look at it at work, it really is about fun. These 2 pictures, annually, we have a 5K, and, it would never occur to me to run a 5K unless somebody was chasing me. But what a couple staff came up with was, what if the 3 months before the 5K, we did a kind of a step competition? And so it's all about steps. It's not about running. And we tracked our steps. We have teams. They have crazy names like the Holy Guacamoles. And there's 5 or 6 people on a team. We track our steps, and the idea is to complete 300 steps within a period of time. People get t-shirts, there's prizes along the way. And I didn't think it was going to work. Initially, we gave out the cheapy little items that track your steps, but now everybody's got a phone that tracks them. And the first year it was moderate, but now it's crazy. People take pictures of themselves with their steps. It's not about joining a gym. It's not about getting a treadmill, right? It really is about steps. And so on the right, this is a group that every day for an hour lunch, they go out and they walk the circle. And on the left are people who either volunteered or ran the 5K. You can see the 3 people with numbers. So it's just a small example of what raising the stakes might be. I think we think of these, and this probably comes a little bit more natural when we think about let's have a competition. We do pumpkin carving and gingerbread house making and all of that, and we do it with the people we support, and we also do it with employees. I think that probably everybody does this when they're thinking about building community or experiences. The third one was break the script. So we talked about boosting sensory appeal and raising the stakes, and this is about breaking the script. So when you think about an experience, you have some familiarity, you have a repertoire of experiences, so you have an expectation for what that experience is going to look like. This picture is on here. We decided a couple of years ago that we would have a rule about annual meetings. And I know that ISSAs do annual meetings, but we do annual meetings as well. And we had a couple of rules. And one was it's a celebration. These are people that have been going to annual meetings for years, and they know what to expect. A couple of people are going to talk about goals and what they've done and what they haven't done. And a couple of people might talk about behaviors that are problematic, right? And often it's focused on falling short. So we decided that none of that would be talked about in our annual meetings. There are ways to talk about that. There's time to talk about that. There's ways to share that information. So in terms of breaking the script, number one, we stopped calling them annual meetings. We call them annual celebrations. Number two, they cannot be in an office, right? And, I would have Q say, well, I asked her where she wanted to have her celebration, and she said, the office. Well, that's all she knew, right? This person was not able to think about 15 places and say, well, I could do it here and I could do it here. She's a limited repertoire, so she's going to come up with either her home or the office. So instead, we said that they had to be somewhere else. The other one was that any significant other or parent needed to leave feeling proud, feeling like the person that they're for is growing and learning and seeing that person smile. So breaking the script. I'm sure there are organizations, people on the line that do that. Have you heard of this? This is kind of crazy. These are table nachos. And we had a staff, obviously this apparently is a thing, and they did these table nachos. It wasn't quite this big for the guys in the house. And you get spatulas and people dip their table nachos onto their plate. Restaurants are doing this. People are paying for groups to go into restaurants to be served their nachos on a table. So it's a thing, and staff knew about this, and they started doing it with some of the people in the house. It's small, but it certainly is. It doesn't follow the script of what dinner typically looks like. I mentioned that I'm responsible for the 40 hours of orientation training. When I read the book, I asked my team to read the book, and we looked at every day, so 5 days of training, and we asked ourselves, beginning with at 8:30 was session number 1, right? of that 8 hours and the 5 sessions, are we boosting sensory appeal? Have we raised the stakes, or have we broken the script? We asked ourselves, after somebody has been there for an hour, do they feel like they're just at the next training, or are they excited to be here? Are they saying to themselves, this is not what I expected this training to be? And then when they go home and their significant other says, honey, how was your day? What are they going to remember? What are the peak moments that they're going to reflect upon and look at? And we looked at every day, every session. And we also identified the pits, because there are some pits that are not avoidable, like basic health and safety. So what we did, I can't take credit for this, it was not my idea. So we start our day, our first day, with playing Jenga. And everybody gets, it's colored Jenga. So the little logs are all different colors, and there's a die with different colors. And everybody gets like a 5-page document, and it's color coded. So I roll a pink, I have to take a pink log out. And then the person to my left asks me a question from the pink list. And the questions are, tell me about a time when you were proud of yourself. Can you think of a time when you did something that you didn't think you could do? What's your hobby? How do you spend your free time? And they do this for probably 30 minutes. And then when it's all done, we kind of review, we joke. And the way we tie that in with core concepts is this. A very common question for staff I work with is, what do I talk to people about? I don't know what to talk about. I don't know what I can ask them. And what we say is, 35 strangers came into a room and played Jenga for 30 minutes. You laughed, you cut up, your blocks fell. There's a little bit of competition. You had a great time, and you're walking away now with 5 pages, right? 5 pages of legit conversation starters for the people that you work with. And so that's kind of how we tie it into core concepts. If you look, so we've got the E for elevation. We've got, now we're going to look at P for pride. Pride you can recognize, you can appreciate, and you can celebrate. Now, this is probably the one that we're probably fairly well centered or grounded. Pride experiences, it's about recognizing and appreciating others and celebrating. And we do pretty good here. When you think about your kids and their report cards, and they come home with certificates and ribbons and all of those kinds of things. So I think that this is probably one that isn't a stretch for most people. And what we suggest is that the catch here is if you break the script when you are recognizing, appreciating, and celebrating. So let me give you an example. So this is Lily. We have a mascot. Lily has been around. I've been here 34 years. Lily's been around probably for 30 years. It sounds silly, but it works. And here's how it works. We have 10 core values. And when a staff member does something that represents those 10 core values, somebody can write them a Lily Award. And what we're looking for here, this is not just about doing more, right? Or it's not just about discretionary effort. But anywhere on the core values, they can write this, and then they get a certificate. And yes, somebody puts on a frog costume and goes to visit them. It works. It's hokey. I've seen grown men cry. People want their picture taken. I've seen people ask for it to be videotaped. Sometimes it's public. Most of the time it's public. Sometimes it's not. because of the person's preference. We have a whole series of gifts that they get. The most recent one is a really cool wine glass that's got a frog etched on the side. Every year in November, December, in addition to whatever the monthly prize is, they get Christmas ornaments. We now have given Christmas ornaments for 5 years. So anybody who gets one in November, December gets a Christmas ornament. It's time consuming. Lots of work goes into it. When all is said and done and we look at the cost of it, it adds up to a reasonable amount of money to, kind of bring excitement to the staff. I probably 30 years ago would have said, I don't think that's going to work, but it does. So before we go into insight, I'm curious if anybody has examples of breaking the script or recognition and appreciation that you either do with your family, that you have been a part of in your professional life, anything that you would share with the group.
As we wait for people to respond, I know that here at ICPN, we like to do like employee shout outs for success stories or even little things just to provide that recognition and appreciation for our employees. Mindy says that at work they do above and beyond recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Kristen says they have a You Caught My Eye program. Kathleen says we celebrate family members of the week each week. The winner gets to choose the Friday night fun night activity. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool.
Cheryl said they do Thankful Thursdays.
I like that.
Employee of the Month recognition. Now people are chiming in. ABCD program, Above and Beyond the Call of Duty. Kudos, where everyone is recognized. Everyone can recognize anyone who helps, goes above and beyond, etc. Applaud cards. Employee of the Month. Staff Appreciation Day. Louisa said we made posters that had our staff members reimagined as superheroes. They had a blast posing for their pictures. That's awesome.
That's very cool. Yeah.
Years of service recognition, praise boards, employee recognition, years of service, greatest of all time award, heart recognition, shout out board, weekly newsletter, caught you doing something good reward. Carmelita said every month we ask any celebrations from staff and the clients we serve. So it sounds like a lot of great things for recognition, appreciation, and celebration.
Right. And here's the thing that I know. I've never had somebody say to me, now that was just dumb. I don't need to be recognized. They all said, thanks. That was pretty cool. Right. Even people who would tell you, I'm conscientious, I'm an outstanding performer, I typically drive my own behavior. Even people that will describe themselves that way appreciate recognition or appreciation. Now, and we do separate the two. Recognition is for a particular event, behavior. So that would be our Lily program. And appreciation is a little bit more general, right? So for somebody who, maybe hasn't gotten a Lily, but they're there, right? They show up 110%. These are people you can count on. Then there are programs for appreciation as well. And with celebrations, we had them online. We had some Zoom celebrations for a while. We do a breakfast with Santa, and it's an appreciation event for any employee, their grandchildren, their children, their nieces, nephews, whatever. And we have a pancake breakfast that's free. And then we have a Santa, and they leave with a picture of them with Santa, and it's free. And that's a big event. So that would be an example of appreciation. Nobody's being recognized, but what we're saying is, let us do something for you that says we're darn glad that you're a part of the team. And that's probably one of our biggest appreciation events. My grandchildren are older, and I was floored when somebody told me that pictures with Santa at the mall are $35. I just don't even know how to think about that. And then they also get an e-copy, so they can make cards or whatever. So we've looked at elevation, we've looked at pride. Let's look at insight. Chip and Dan describe it as tripping over the truth. Often we're providing information, we're telling people how we want them to think, how we want them to behave, giving rules and structures and strategies, right? Those are all given to the person. In this particular situation, what they're talking about is an experience that puts the person in the mode of an aha. And experiential training will often do this. When you ask a person to participate in a program that somebody that they support is a part of this program, and you say to the staff, so next week on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you're going to go with that person, you're going to shadow that person, and you're going to live their day, right, for 3 days. Lots of insight comes from situations like that, kind of tripping over the truth. I can't believe I still have to sit at this table. I've been sitting at this table for 30 minutes. Why am I still sitting here? Those kinds of things. So I like this. I like this a lot. Stretching for insight, offering, this is the book, this book. I asked my whole team to read it, and I asked them for five ways that they would apply this to their personal life and to their professional life. So again, here's some content, not difficult to read. It was just a couple of chapters. And where would you take this now for application? So pushing them, stretching them for insight. So we've got elevation, pride, and insight. The last one is connection. And these are some of the obvious, right? Connection creates a shared meaning and deepens ties. I have the wedding on here because obviously it's a time of shared meeting. But weddings fall into the Disney paradox. If you ask a bride over the day to rate her experience from early morning until the end of the reception, and then a month later ask them to rate that experience, their recollection is going to be far higher than the summation or the average of their report for that day, right? Because crazy things happen when you get married. There's stress, there's people who don't show, people who behave in ways that they shouldn't. So I think it's a really good example of the Disney paradox. Let's see. So here you have a couple of people supported and some people playing Uno. One of the things that we find when people support people in houses, our staff come on at 4. They come on at 4 and they've got a lot to do. There's 5 people that live in the house, and they're thinking about, okay, I need to kind of get people settled. I need to work with these 2 folks at making dinner. And then tonight, this person's going to work on their laundry, so I'm going to support that person. And I need to drop this person off here and pick this person up here. And their 8 hours feels like it is booked solid. So one of the things that we say is make time for connection. And if you find that you don't have time for connection, then say to your supervisor, I don't have time for meaningful engagement. I find that I'm doing this and this. What can I do differently so that I have an hour, a half an hour here and a half an hour there for the purpose of meaningful engagement? And we're challenged, right? They will come to us and say, all right, this is what I do. I do this. And it's 11 o'clock and I've had no time for meaningful engagement. And so we've had to back up and say, okay, let's think differently about how that 8 hours is spent. Okay. I was telling Danielle prior to this, not a fan of Zoom. When we first started living in the world of Zoom, I just didn't think it was viable. I didn't think that people would be able to connect. I didn't think that it was a platform that people would be able to feel engaged, learn, right? I just didn't buy it, but I didn't have a choice. It was kind of where we found ourselves. And I think you guys know where this is going. It can work. And I'll give you an example. We had a gentleman who was used to seeing his family member, every other week or something like that. And that wasn't an option because of COVID. And we found out after this happened, a staff member had brought their personal laptop to the family's home and taught them how to Zoom. And they Zoomed initially just with other family members. So he went to their home and said, this is Zoom, this is how it works. You've seen it on TV, let's spend some time. And so he worked with them so the family members were comfortable doing it. And then he said, so now let's Zoom with your son. And they went out. Initially, he was going to their house every time to bring the laptop to them. So he was going to their house, bringing the laptop. Somebody else at Bob's house was working with Bob so everybody could see each other. They said, no, we got to buy a laptop, right? We've got it. We've got to have access to this. And what was even cooler was that not only was Bob able to see his mom, dad, and brothers every other week, but now he was seeing aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews. And the staff member had taught them how to play bingo on Zoom. And it was crazy. We didn't find out about this until the staff had already done this, but viable, right? I was saying this would never work, and viable, enriching. So he now, outside of COVID, he can still go see his family, but he doesn't see his aunts and uncles. He doesn't even see them on Christmas. He does now because they do a family Zoom. And, nobody asked the staff to do this. He was just a compassionate man with a really cool idea. So, of course, then we're like, hey, wait a minute here. And we spread that out. And we started saying, okay, who else can we support doing this? Pretty neat. That was obviously something that he received a lily for. Trinity Strong. COVID was scary. It was trying. It devastated a lot of people. And so when we were coming together, we had a staff member say, let's do hashtag Trinity Strong, with the idea that we can get through this. We're a team. Everybody brings something to the table. We're strong enough. We can gather our strength from each other. And what we ended up doing was our emails for DSPs, ILCs, are T-sealing at Trinity Strong. So we even changed that. So now we have this whole Trinity Strong. It's built into our culture that we have T-shirts. People post on Facebook Trinity Strong when we have something that somebody who goes through a trying time. People will send shout outs, hey, thinking about you, remember we're Trinity Strong. So this was pretty touching. And most people don't want to wear a uniform, and I don't blame them, but there's not a day that goes by where we don't have people running around Trinity wearing a Trinity Strong t-shirt, sweatshirt, hat, something. So that was just an example, again, of clever, and it's now built into our culture. So we've looked at EPIC, elevation, pride, insight, and connection. I think, again, part of the beauty of this book is its simplicity and the fact that it's actionable, both in your personal life and your professional life. It was really a very good exercise for my team to look at our charge, right? Our responsibility is to provide meaningful, engaging staff development and to process our responsibilities through the lens of epic moments and peak moments, rethinking how we do things as a result of that. And I think it's worth your time to do something similar rather than waiting for moments to happen. And they do, great moments happen. I guess my challenge for you, because it has been such a positive experience for us, is to process your role, particularly if you're working with people supported, through the lens of intentional behavior that creates epic moments. We have questions or comments?
We had a couple examples when you were talking about connection.
Awesome.
So Ashley was on the team that previously did a scavenger hunt around the town. So they had groups and they drove around the town taking pictures of things on a list. And she just said it brought them together and brought a lot of laughs for many years between
That's
them.
very cool.
Carmelita talked about how she has a college reunion via Zoom. So although a lot of people live, a long ways away, they're able to get together in that capacity to connect. Looks like that was about it. Everyone is very thankful for the information provided today. I know we had a lot of people ask about the book and intend to get that and read that. I was unable to send out the handout prior to, for whatever reason, our mailing system is not letting me do mass emails, but that will be sent out with the continuing education certificate so people have access to that.
Well, first, let me thank everybody. Everybody's super busy, and I appreciate that you took an hour out of your morning to think about this. Let me give another shout out. They have also written a book called Switch. It is older, and it's about change, but it is not the same. Change happens. You've got to be ready for change. Hire a consultant for change. It's very much the same premise. Here's what we know. Here's how to apply it. Here's what we know. Here's how to apply it. And it is equally actionable. So just in terms of, not having enough time to read and those kinds of things, that would be another book that would be worth your time. And it's another book that you can process chapter by chapter. It's also another book to use for team building as well. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of a chip and dip groupie. So again, thank you so much for your time. I hope that you found value and that maybe now's a perfect time, right? December is incredibly hectic, but now's a perfect time to be intentional about creating epic moments because of the holidays. So best wishes to you.
Thank you so much, Trina. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thanks, Danielle. All right. Do you need me for any reason?
Nope.
Okay.
I think we can go ahead and sign off.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take
Absolutely.
care.
Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.